Greetings to you. My name is Brabazon and I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 112 on not being strong. Yes, on not being strong. And this is our second instalment in our resilience trilogy, which is increasingly becoming an anti-resilience trilogy. And this is a vlog that's going to have some personal elements to it, and it is rare for me to have these personal components as part of it, but it is politically important, and also it's grounded in the doctoral research, as it always is when we're having this conversation. And I am summoning some personal stuff today to dismiss some professional nonsense that has been occurring in the last couple of months or so. Now, my voice may crack, I may get upset, but that's part of the story today. The personal is political, the personal is professional. You'll hang with me, I know you will. I always do these vlogs in one take, and I will do that again today. What I might do though, because it is quite a challenging topic, is I might split it into two. So I'll do the first half, I'll then have a glass of water, and then do the second half. So hang with me. And by 112 vlogs, you all know me very well. I'm communicating with so many of you every day, whether it be on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or via email. So we're starting to know each other pretty well. So you maybe know what's about to happen. This is the time for some honesty, for some accountability, some transparency, and also some integrity, so that you are better placed in thinking about who you are in your doctoral program. So let's talk about on not being strong and how we got here. There's been a series of very disturbing studies that have emerged in the last 3 years in particular, just as I was taking on this job actually, that reported the very disturbing mental health issues that were emerging in doctoral programs around the world. And these studies have come from North America, they've also come from European countries. Now the challenge is a lot of those studies are not longitudinal, and a lot of those studies are involving very, very small groups of students. So the generalizability of those studies, pretty difficult to determine. But having said that, it is clear there is a challenge, there is a problem, and it is a new one. Now, always at Flinders, I try and be prescient. So this is an issue, this is an international issue, so I'm trying to configure a whole series of strategies and systems and structures and policies and procedures to help you on your way through your program if and when mental health concerns emerge, because clearly it's an issue and we need to address that at Flinders with honesty and robustness and care. But interestingly, while I was creating this sort of suite of materials for you all, a colleague, a wonderful friend of mine, said to me, "Oh, Tara, I don't think you really should be organising the mental health program because you're so strong and the students don't really come and see you because they've got such small problems and they can't manage, and you've got such big problems and you manage so easily." Right, so I got that comment and I looked at the person, and then suddenly the pennies dropped and I went, oh right, I really do have to address this with some honesty. So I really wanted to be honest with you in this resilience series. Now, I've never had a mental health concern. None of my family have had a mental health concern. I have had very good friends of mine top themselves through really bad working environments and relationship breakdowns. So I understand the horror of this issue. But I think the reason why people are able to stay mentally upright and mentally clear has nothing to do at all, nothing, with being strong or being resilient. In fact, the argument I'm going to make today is all this stuff about being strong and being resilient is actually causing the problem in the first place. So I get called a strong woman a lot. Now, I'm not. But what I find fascinating is the use of the adjective there, so the use of the word strong. What exactly does it mean? So when I'm always thinking about words like this, I apply inversion, Derrida 101, and I think about, right, strong women. Well, what about strong men? Now, of course, I'm a big fan of strong men. I love those strong men competitions. You know, when the guy from Norway drags like a Mack truck behind him, like with his teeth. You know those blokes from Scotland that like lift up a boulder and run 50 metres and drop it? So I love this stuff. So that's the strongman competition, okay? That's great. Now, the reason that connotation is deployed, of course, is for a man to have the adjective placed in front of the word man, they have to do something extraordinary, like pull a Mack truck with their teeth, because it is assumed most of the time that men are pretty strong. So that's why the adjective is not deployed unless you're doing something weird with a boulder. So men are strong by default, supposedly. Now let me explain why that is so incredibly damaging in a doctoral program. Now, as we all know, the common truth, and it is actually true, there are more women than men in undergraduate programs right now, today, around the world. So there are more women than men in undergraduate programs. But by the PhD, by the doctorate, more men are admitted into a PhD program than women, and more men graduate a PhD than women do. And each layer of seniority in academic life, whether it's senior lecturer or professor or dean or vice chancellor, there are more men than women at each stage we go up the seniority hierarchy. So I want to talk about the consequences on men in our doctoral program with all this strength and resilience stuff. Remember, men are our majority group. So the assumption that men are strong and men can take it is part of what is causing all this mental health concern issue right now. And I find it such a tragedy because men's studies and masculinity studies is producing such powerful theorising. In the last 25 years, we have a great body of theory to help us understand and frame and transform this problem. And can I say, the bulk of mental health referrals that come from my office are for male students. And when I think about some of the truly tragic moments in the last 2 years in my tenure as Dean at Flinders University, some of those saddest moments have involved male PhD students in my room. So assuming that men are strong, men can take it, it's causing profound problems. It has to stop. And then, of course, we get to women. Now, the phrase strong women is not remotely linked with sort of the strong men competition at all. And in fact, strong women need the adjective because it's assumed that women are actually not strong, that women are actually weak. And of course, that's justified through history. The reason why women have had injustice, the reason why rights have been withheld from women is because they can't take it, because they're not strong, because women are weak. Bless. So when a woman is described as strong, so a strong woman, then she clearly is a unicorn and needs to be removed from the pack because she may hurt others. So you can see the absolute mess that we're getting into here whenever the word strong is being deployed and used for men or women. Now, none of this strong stuff or strength stuff or resilient stuff actually is dealing with context and systems and structures and institutions. It focuses on some poor person who has to toughen up, princess. Well, let's just calm the farm here. This is unbelievable to me. This is ridiculous. Life is incredibly hard at the moment. Universities are incredibly hard at the moment. It is a tough place to work, tough place to get work, tough place to stay in work, and a really tough place to try and create a family structure in and around this complicated working environment. So in universities, we confront wave after wave after wave of this dreadful stuff, and supposedly we're meant to be sort of like those Antarctic penguins, sort of standing there and just sort of taking the buffeting of winter. But actually, if you think about those fantastic penguins in Antarctica, they all sort of huddle together. The reason they survive the winter is they're actually a community or a collective surviving it together. And that's the point that I want to actually make today. I also want to report on a recent study that was reported in the May 2018 Times Higher Education. But this study was by Isabel Skakny. And she completed the research project title, and I want to get this right, Doctoral Studies as an Initiatory Trial. As an initiatory trial, end of quote. Now, once more, this is a small study, 55 students and supervisors in an unnamed Canadian university. But this study showed how completely bonkers doctoral education is at the moment, or indeed how bonkers the doctoral program, the doctoral supervision is getting. She reported in her research that the qualities that were seen to be valuable in a PhD student by both the students themselves and their supervisors, these qualities were, quote, self-sacrifice and the capacity to manage, quote, some level of suffering, end of quote, and, quote, intellectual isolation, end of quote. And all those variables, the capacity to suffer, was valued more than, quote, talent or, quote, intelligence. So doctoral programs have become a form of the Big Brother house, or I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Intelligence is supposedly less important than the capacity to suffer. Right. This is completely ridiculous. Suffering, sacrifice, humiliation, regret must not be part of any educational experience, and certainly will never occur on my watch as Dean. Full stop. So you can see what's happening here with all this focus on the importance of being strong and being resilient, because the assumptions are that doctoral education is about suffering, that it's about humiliation. And you need to be strong to manage those waves of abuse. Well, actually, you know what? That's completely wrong. A PhD is about a clever person making an original contribution to knowledge. Full stop, that's what it is. A PhD is about a supervisor supporting that student so that that student can become better than us, can actually transform knowledge and actually transcend what we do in our career. That's the legacy. So this vlog, I hope, is making a statement today. We need to improve our systems and we need to improve our structures so that it's not reliant on a student having to manage humiliation to get through. But I think I understand really where this mental health stuff is coming from now, and why I think I responded so badly when someone referred to me as a strong woman and resilient, and a lot of people do. I'm not strong, I'm not resilient. What I do is I have systems and structures around me, so when things happen, I've already made complicated, difficult decisions and choices. So I have the systems around me to support me in times of crisis. I never decide anything at a point of crisis. I have goals, but I'm not wedded to any outcome, and I have pretty low expectations. I think probably it's not going to end well. It often doesn't, but it just means my hopes aren't up that it's all going to be fabulous. And look, I've certainly been tested in life. I've worked in some truly dreadful environments. I've worked for some truly dreadful people, but personalities have never worried me. Individuals have never worried me. I know what's important. I know what's relevant, and I simply get on with it. So the rest of this vlog is going to present 10 maxims, if you will, for you to consider in your life, to think about in good times, to prepare those structures and systems for the bad. And, you know, I have been tested, there's no doubt about that. Some of you may know my wonderful husband, Professor Steve Redhead, died 2 months ago. It was an unusual death because we made some very unusual decisions around it. He died of pancreatic cancer and he was diagnosed in the July of 2017. Now, the thing about pancreatic cancer is the moment that the first symptom appears, you're a dead man walking, so you are gone. That first symptom is the moment of death. So Steve and I made a series of decisions about how he would live the remainder of his life. Now, Steve was writing a book titled Theoretical Times. It was coming out before Christmas. He had a series of other books that were being produced. Trump Studies was being produced. Moving On Up was being produced, a series of articles. He also had 10 PhD students that would be completing before his death. So with his life taken away from him, my point, what I was trying to do in my life, was return some agency and some choice to him. So he wanted it completely private, he wanted no one to know, and that's what I was able to deliver to him. We refused pretty well all medical interventions. Thank goodness when we did have medical interventions, they were very, very poor. One thing I can tell you, I'm not dying in Adelaide. And also remember, I have no family or friends in Adelaide. So I was looking after Steve while in a full-time job completely on my own. So this was the hardest thing I have ever done, I will ever do. And this has nothing to do with strength. Nothing. This has everything to do with making decisions when bad stuff occurs. Now, there's nothing liberating or joyful or beautiful about this story. It is brutalizing and it is tragic. And I didn't take time off after his death, and of course that caused all this sort of trauma. And I didn't take time off because what was I taking time off to do? It's important, and I've always believed this, that every now and again in life, you've got to look at it in its grotesque beauty and take it on the chin and understand what's going on with reality. So as you can see, all the stuff about me being a strong woman or resilient or all this sort of stuff is nonsense, absolute nonsense. I'm really not strong, but I do make decisions. And therefore the final bit of this vlog, and I will take a bit of a break and have a glass of water, the final bit of this vlog will provide a series of 10 maxims for your consideration in good times to prepare you for the bad. Maxim 1. Make a decision. Stress, worry, fear and confusion emerge in our life when we delay making a decision. We drift, we become agitated, yet all that stress and worry ends when we make a decision. So make a decision, call it early, deal with the consequences of your actions. Assess, evaluate the available information, and yes, call it. Once a decision is made, the worry actually stops. So when I'm working with a PhD student who is thinking about leaving the program, and it's quite a challenging conversation to enact, I've started to implement one strategy. And that strategy is I get them to close their eyes in my office and I get them to imagine something and articulate their feelings. And what I get them to imagine is, I am taking your PhD away from you. How do you feel? And the students that get upset, get really emotional and often cry, they're the ones that I think, right, well, they should really stay in the program, and we come up with strategies to manage the rest of their candidature so they can complete. But can I say a sizable minority of students, when I get them to close their eyes and envision how they feel when I take the PhD away from them, they express blessed relief. And that's the group that should leave a PhD program. So they're in it because they're in it because they're in it and they're worrying about it, and actually when they stop doing a PhD and they actually exit the program, they feel relieved. So yes, make a decision. 2, be very clear what is important to you. Ask yourself this key question and this key question today. What is important to you? And I need you to write that list down. So just sort of free associate, write that list down. But then what I want you to do is go back to that list and actually hierarchize it. So put a number about what's important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's probably your family, it's probably your friends, it may be some objects that you care about deeply. All of that's great. What is important to you? List it without judgment, and then rank it without judgment. What matters the most? Once you've got a sense of that, we move to maxim 3. Make sure your behaviour aligns with what is important to you. My life changed when I suddenly realised this was an important trope in life. Because think about it, how much of your life, how much of your time do you spend doing stuff that doesn't matter to you at all? So a key truth is to align the time you spend and align your behaviour with what is important to you. Don't spend time on stuff that doesn't matter. Full stop. Maxim 4. Create structures for your success. and automate what you can. So you can see this is aligned with what's important to you and behavior. So once you've worked out what's important to you and you've hierarchized that, you've put in place some key priorities, then the key is to ensure that the systems and the structures around you enable you to spend time on that which is important. So the stuff that's not on your priority list, either simply remove it from your life, don't spend any time on it at all, or automate it. And what that means, for example, is if you don't like shopping and it's wasting your time, then automate it. Do online shopping, get material delivered. But it's also structural. Make structural decisions. So say you want to lose weight. Well, you know what? Don't buy chocolate cake. If chocolate cake isn't in the house, you won't eat it. Similarly, if you want to not drink booze for a while, then that's great. Therefore, don't buy gin and tonic. If gin and tonic is not in the house, then you won't drink it. So ensure that the systems and the structures around you enable your behavior on that which is important. So create those structures for success. 5, my big one, when people tell you the truth about themselves, believe them. This is really my big mantra of life, and all my friends around the world hear me utter this a great deal. So if someone behaves like a beast, if someone is vindictive, if someone is jealous and enters rages on multiple occasions in your daily life, then you know what? Trust them. When they tell you the truth about who they are, believe them. Don't think they're going to be different. Don't think they're going to change. They are a beast. And therefore, if they are a beast, you need to stay away from them. 6, control what you can control. When bad stuff happens to any of us, we feel out of control. We feel like we're losing the plot, we're losing the way in which our life is ordered and organised. And fear often follows that lack of control. But always start in a situation with a clear sense of the variables that you can control. So instead of focusing on the power that other people have over you, start to think about what you have control over. So I built my career, my academic career, by focusing on writing one article at the time, by teaching one course at a time, and writing one book at a time. I have never been reliant on a mentor or a supervisor or someone who has control over my life. Instead, I've focused on what I have control over, and I make changes in that space. Always remember, you are the puppeteer of your own life. You are not the puppet. 7, do not determine your value by what other people say about you. Oh yes. For me, this seems the biggest problem confronting PhD students right now. This is what I see in my office, because you're living your life and you're also creating your sense of personal value from what other people are saying about you. And it may be fellow students, it may be supervisors, it may be journal referees. And look, certainly you should take advice, take commentary, manage feedback. But every bit of advice you receive should be read through your lens, your filter, what is important to you. And I need you right now to have a strong sense of self. I need you to believe that you are important, that you are extraordinary, and yes, you are fabulous. Everything you do should come from that knowledge that I am important, I am enough, and I am truly fabulous. So start there. Always start with I'm fabulous, and then any commentary, any critique you receive can be read through that knowledge. Know who you are. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and be cool with that. And don't let other people tell you who they think you are. Boom. 8. Defend yourself. Most of the time, I completely ignore the haters and the underminers in life. If I got worried about this, I get 20 emails a day of people sort of having a good focus shout or grumble bum, and that's great. Knock yourself out, not bothered. But remember, focus on what is important. So obviously what other people are saying about you in email and stuff doesn't matter too much until it undermines who you are and it undermines what is important to you. So it's important that you control what you control, you keep reading, you keep writing, you keep doing research, and you keep achieving. Focus on what's important. But every now and again, it is important that you stand up for yourself. The ruthlessness in higher education at the moment is truly appalling. It is incredibly hard to get work, it is incredibly hard to stay in work, and it's incredibly hard to manage family time around it. It is a really ruthless working environment right now. It's a pretty bad culture. So again, keep returning to that list. Look at what you believe is important in your life. Now, if one of those goals is threatened, then you need to defend yourself. Now, as I said, I put up with 99.99% of stuff that's thrown at me, not too bothered. But the moment that 0.1% is threatened, I go, and I go hard. I'm ruthless, and I protect what is important to me. I take no prisoners. Make sure that the defence is not arbitrary, it's not cruel. Make sure it is defending what is important to you, rather than the minutiae of daily disrespect that is just the nature of higher education. 9. Say no early and often. One of the reasons so many of us get stressed and get angry and get worried is we're completely overscheduled and we don't have time to do what is important to us. Too often in life, we confuse the urgent with the important. So the reason I get up every morning at 2 a.m. in the morning and do at least 2.5 hours of work is in that 2.5 hours, I do what is important. So whatever else happens through the day, and I have a lot of stuff that's urgent during my working day, I know I've spent every single day of my life 2.5 hours doing the important. So my day starts with that. To give myself time to understand both the urgent and the important, I say no a lot, and I say no early. I'm very clear about what's important to me, and if something is not linking in with what's important to me, I say no to that request. Again, don't stress yourself, just say no and say it early. And that links back to your own earlier point, be clear what's important. Maxim 10. If you're not going to worry about something in 2 years, don't worry about it now. This final mantra, again, completely changed my life. Worry, waste time. Make a decision, call it. If you make a mistake, it's fine, but just make a decision. All of us worry about some minor issue or somebody said to us or blah, 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 but always work from the premise each day. If you're not going to worry about it in 2 years' time, if you won't even remember that person's name in 2 years, then really don't worry about it too much now. And that clears the deck for you to focus on what's important now. Can I also say it works in an inverted way too, that if you will care about something in 2 years' time that happens today, well, wow, put some time, some energy, and some focus on it today. Now, I know that some of you, maybe many of you, who have been watching this vlog today, you may be in a dark place. My love, my respect to you today. And you need to know that a suite of personal and professional support structures are available to you today to move you forward in your life and your journey. You need to know the support structures are available. One email and we will action those support structures. We will create those systems that will allow you to climb out of that well. Do not think for one moment that you are lacking resilience or you're lacking strength. As I've always said, it takes incredible strength to admit weakness. But if you are in a good place today, then it may be the moment for you to move through those 10 mantras and start to think about what's important to you today. And put those systems and those structures in place so when bad things do happen, you have that plan B, that plan C, that plan D. That was what's important, because bad stuff does happen to good people. But good people have planning and systems and structures of support around them to manage those difficult times. So thank you for being with me, and I wish you love, light and peace. Tea out.